Christine Page takes her gloves off in her analysis of how our species became compromised in our levels of awareness in the second part of our most recent interview with her. This comes from her newest book, 2012 and the Galactic Center, a very different view of the opportunities associated with this date. In it, she says we need to take a fresh view of the message in the Bible regarding the Tower of Babel and the ruination of communication between Earth's people.
In that period of time, it is suggested that there was a manipulation of our DNA. We went from being a 12-strand DNA down to a two strands of DNA making up a chromosome. I have to say that I think the issue may have even been manipulated earlier on as well. I want to say that I think just 3,000 years ago is not very long.
No.
And so it makes me feel that, you know how we often think, wow, 3,000 years, long time.
No,
but
this happened far
farther. You know, when I went to see Jurassic Park and I saw that, I thought, actually, this was during the reptilian stage that this manipulation took place. And we're talking billions of years back or millions of years back. So I'm just saying that I think it's hard for us to get our heads around big figures when it comes to humanity. But if you speak to the ancient people, they all talk about being around for 100,000 years, or Lemuria being at its height at 45,000 years. So I'm sorry to kind of say, I don't think it was just during that period of time, about 1800 years BC, that this all happened.
No, much further back.
Much further back.
Yes.
But I believe that there would have been a way of switching on and off DNA that at this present period of time, we don't know the difference.
No, we don't, which is, okay, now if you go back into a lot of the work of Sitchin and others, they talk openly about genetic engineering and manipulation.
Right.
So, of course, the understanding of DNA would have been, it's obvious.
Yes.
And so there would have been the potential for it to have been rewired, engineered any way that the engineers would choose.
Yes.
And so how does this bridge from Babylonian times into now?
I feel that we probably knew how we could do it chemically as much as we could do it anything else. My mind goes to that we do know during the Lemurian period, 45,000 years ago at least, there was mixing of animal and human genomes or genes. So it was again very old.
Yes.
But it feels that the ability to switch off or to manipulate may not have necessarily been to separate those strands, but to make sure that a lot of the information wasn't expressed or replicated. As we know that 90% of the genome program, if we look at a gene, we actually don't know what 90% does. We call it trash DNA or junk DNA. But I want to say that I think it isn't just switched off. I think that it's actually interacting on other levels that we as scientists can't yet meet.
Yes, more invisible realms.
More invisible. Yes. But the other side of this was our disconnect from the planets, from the moon, from our understanding of the galaxy. I think that once we stopped making, somehow a veil was put around us, so that we could no longer be influenced by the moon as we did in the past, or the galaxy, etc. And that, I think, is what was the manipulation that took place at that time.
This is perhaps my favorite conversation with Christine yet. You can go to ConsciousMediaNetwork.com for the full interview.